You are a cultural pioneer, or as I'd like to say, a culture-neer. You're daring to go where others aren't willing to go. The unknown doesn't scare you, it intrigues you. You're not satisfied with the status quo. Business as usual is not in your DNA. You're done with doing the same thing and expecting a different result. You're an explorer at heart and a trendsetter by nature. You were born with purpose, called to lead, destined to make a difference. You are a culture-neer.
Guys, welcome to another episode of the Culture-neer podcast. I'm your host, Terry Gwaltney. Listen, today is going to be a little bit different. We're going to do part 2 of session 1 at our recent Ripple Effect Experience Conference that we just finished up with. The subject was on perspective. Last time we were together, we listened to kind of the first half of this. Today, I'm going to give you the other half of that. And one of the things that I would encourage you just to pay close attention to, some of the subject matter that we talked about is we really focused in on the difference between just creating raving fans and thinking that only meant our customers, which is probably, if I said that, like, hey, what are we talking about if I'm saying let's create some raving fans? Our mind would have probably automatically went to our customer. But that's only half the equation. The other part of that equation is that we have to create raving fans amongst our employees because they truly set the lid on the customer experience. That experience will never be greater with your customers than it is with your own employees. So listen to this today. I'm going to encourage you to listen to this a couple times. There's going to be some stuff you're going to want to unpack. And then we'll be back here in a few minutes on the tail end.
I think the question is do you just want to be competitive out there? I think everybody in here would say, yeah, I want to be competitive. Well, competitive means that it's like you're selling a commodity and you're on the same field. Wouldn't you rather have a competitive advantage rather than just be competitive? Culture is your competitive advantage. And I don't have time to do this. You're just going to get bits and pieces of this all day, but it all melds together, and it's the one thing that your competition can't steal. Guys, our business is a commodity business. Anybody can go out and buy what we're buying. With a little bit of instruction, maybe they can install it the same way, but they don't have the same people. They don't necessarily have maybe the same commitment to the experience. Maybe they don't follow back up the way they could. There's a culture, though, because you have a whole bunch of people that feel valued, that now turn around and treat your customers with a high degree of value. And because they feel like that they're valued, it's not they're working for someone, they're working alongside and with someone. It's not just a paycheck, it's purpose-driven. It's mission-driven. I feel good about what I get to go out and do every day. Man, that's powerful. And that's really, really hard just to go try to imitate what somebody else is doing because you can't sustain it that way. So, what can you do with your employees to do that? I'm just going to blow through this really, really quickly. What if you hosted workshops for some of your employees that had things to do with nothing that seemed like it had anything to do with your business or what you do? One of the things you'll see at lunch, there'll be a video reel rolling. We're hosting a marriage and a parenting workshop that's coming up. I think we have one in March and one in May. It's not going to make our people any better at sales. It's not going to make them any better on their production side. But you know what it could do is have them show up on Monday better because they didn't fight all weekend. There's something about the people that you hire. If I interview someone that is in a good place in their marriage and good place in their finances, 6 months later they're on your team, they're not in a good place in their marriage, they may still be showing up at work every day, but they're not really present. You're not dealing with the same person 6 months before the divorce or 6 months after the divorce. Wouldn't it make good business sense to invest in the people that are on your team and give them some tools? I mean, think about it. All of us got married and we studied longer for our driver's license than we did our marriage license. We paid more probably for our driver's license than we did our marriage license. And it's like, well, we'll just figure this all out. Well, half the people don't figure it out. I mean, just look around. We all know. And so what if we helped invest in some of those things? What happens is when you invest in your people, they invest in your business. When they feel valued, they will become your most valuable tools in your business. So think outside the box. When we're talking about growing your people to grow your business, what are you doing? When people get engaged in our organization, we always tell them we're willing to send them to a 2-night, 3-day retreat for premarital counseling. We'll pay for it. Guys, that's a great investment. And it's going to cost us maybe $1,000. That is a great investment. I mean, if somebody would have made that investment in me, I would have saved grief for years. Because you live on love for that first however many days. And then the honeymoon's over and it's like, really? We didn't talk about who's going to handle the finances. You don't cook? We didn't talk about who's going to, you expect me to do your laundry? No, we didn't talk about that. I mean, there's just some practical things that's just a worthwhile investment in your employees and cause them to want to be able to stick. Anytime you're adding value to your life, you're also endearing your team to your heart. Think about treating them just like family. How would you want to be treated? How would you treat your kids? If you'll take that mindset and try to use that to treat your employees that way, then you'll find out you have this culture that is so engaged. And it's like they're not looking at the time clock and like, we would have got that done, but we only had 5 minutes left, so really. So we just left the roof wide open. And it was going to rain. Yeah, it's 5 o'clock, man. That stuff doesn't happen. Why? Because they're engaged. They understand the mission. They're willing to do whatever they've got to do, and they treat it like it's their own. Because when you begin to value people, you're also providing ownership. If you're interested in all aspects of their lives, your employees are going to be more interested in all aspects of your business. Sometimes we're asking for things and demanding things that we're not willing to give ourselves. You're never going to have a raving fan customer base unless you first created raving fan employees. So change your perspective on that. Understand that they're the lid. Focus on creating them intentionally. How do you create those memorable moments? I almost brought this as I left the office, but we do this, what we call a white glove award, and it's for guys that are setting up their job sites. And their job is just to be the project manager out there for the day. But it's much more than that. They're the liaison between the customer. They're making sure their job site sticks out to all of the neighbors. Matter of fact, they're passing out information about noise control and everything to the neighbors. They're the PR person on that job site for the day. What happens is they understand that they're making memories. And so we do this contest where we throw people on a committee every quarter and their peers, and they photo document all their job sites. There might be 400 pictures of everything that's happened. And they go through and we have this disqualifying list, and they're rating each other on who had the best job of the week. One guy gets this hat that's a poop emoji, so it's kind of the turd award. And it used to be a white glove award. At the end of the year, they may be able to win a boat, a four-wheeler. There's some bigger things, that we give away at the end of the year as we just kind of try to lavish love on our employees. But I walked out and they had just ordered this, it looks like a WWF belt. It's about this big. And that's what they get to wear for the week, when they win that. So here you have guys that are out there that are being celebrated amongst their peers in front of other people. And guys, what you reward is what gets repeated. What you recognize is what gets repeated. Those things, though, are investments in the lives of your team and your people that are adding value. Does that make sense? But they're intentional. So how do you get your people to do that? If you sit just a little while, you begin to see, because it's a two-way street. I think one of the coolest awards that we do, we started this about 3 years ago, it's called the Servant's Heart Award. And it's only the second award that we do in our company that every month the entire company votes on one person. It's like, this person exhibited teamwork and a Servant's Heart Award on our team. And then, they get an award every month. And then who's ever won it the most during the course of the year, they actually get in the rally for the bigger prizes at what we call our year-end celebration. And to see guys win that, This was the most interesting thing last year. 12 months, 12 different people won that. That spoke volumes of the health of our culture. It's one thing if Johnny is shining out 12 times in a row, but when their peers are all voting and 12 different people won over the course of a year, that was a picture of a healthy culture. Not perfect, but healthy. But that happens because of those little things that are intentional. So create raving fans among your employees. Change the perspective, and you'll find that you're producing a whole lot more raving customers. Listen, if your sales meetings are always about how am I going to create more sales, what if you just change the perspective a little bit and how do we create more raving fans and create better customer experiences? If the focus of the training shifted to that, the byproduct would be more sales. So we're talking about business beyond profit, purpose beyond profit. We're not saying that we don't need to make a profit. We absolutely do. But is there something beyond that? And it can't just be the only focus. Third thing I'll give you is, what if your perspective on marketing changed just a little bit? Guys, great brands are really born from great cultures. And again, when we're thinking about marketing, we're usually thinking about how do we get a message out to amass more customers. But really, the best marketing is not just about generating sales. Now, it's important. It's definitely a KPI. It's something you're going to look at. But what's it really about? It's really about creating a story that the customers and the employees want to be a part of. You think about Harley Davidson, you think about Rolex, think about Louis Vuitton. I could go buy my wife a purse from Rural King, and it would be functional. But there's something different if I was to go buy my wife a functional purse from Louis Vuitton. It sends a different message. Now, she wouldn't buy it on her own, but she never says no if I go buy it. You know what I'm saying? What is the difference? Well, it's a style, it's a name. It's a story and a brand women want to be associated with. I could go out and buy a Yamaha, no offense, but if I had an opportunity to go out and have a Harley, it's more of a status symbol to have a Harley and that sound and all of the things that go with that. You could buy a Timex, but nobody asks you about your Timex. But how long have you had your Rolex? Why? Because there's certain brands and stories that we want to be associated and people want to be a part of. Your customers are the same way. I remember a guy telling me he was in Paducah, Kentucky, in his wrap truck, still in his uniform, walking to his truck in the parking lot. He had come from a police background, so his mindset was a little bit different. And here's this guy yelling at him. He turns around and you realize the guy's yelling at him, and he's hard charging him. And he's telling me in my mind, I'm bracing for what's about to happen next. And he pulls up and he said, "You work for integrity?" He said, "Yes, sir, I do." And he just put out his hand. He said, "I want to tell you how much I appreciate what you guys did in my community when that tornado came through. You helped my neighbor, da-da-da," and he went into all these details. Now, what do you think at that moment that employee felt like? That was a brand that he felt good in that moment about being associated with. That helps him on his purpose and his mission when he gets up every day. And so your investment back into community and back into serving pays dividends. And you have to look at it as an investment. I think if you understand there's a bigger purpose, if I'm blessed to be a blessing. And so inside of that purpose, those things come back. You can't quantify all that stuff. We're starting to see people now, we changed how we did our ads, and we created them as a filter, this is our mission, this is our vision, these are our core values. We play by these every day, and if you don't bother applying. You won't be a good fit. But most of the people that we end up talking to is "Where'd you find us at?" "Well, it was on Indeed." "Well, there's thousands of construction jobs out there. Why did you apply here?" Because we select about 1 out of 100 people we talk to. Why did you apply here? "Man, I read your mission statement." People don't say that anymore. I I really like what your vision statement had. I felt like our core values aligned. Are you following what I'm saying? Back to what I was saying earlier. They want to be a part of a story that shares their values and something they can be proud of. They don't want to just gonna say, I went to work yesterday and I made some money and I have job security at my house. But I also made a difference yesterday. You know, we also, smoked turkeys, at Thanksgiving, and we got to hand those out to people that were less fortunate. One of the cool things that we got to do just a couple of weeks ago is we did a joint partnership with WPSD, and they wanted to fight food inequality. And so they came to us and said, absolutely, we'll be on board. We'll help pioneer it. And the idea was just call out another business and challenge them to box out against hunger is what they called it. And see how much food you can raise, how much food you can bring in, and then we'll weigh it, and we'll just make it a fun contest. But then you guys can choose whoever you want to give it to. Well, we did that, and ours was 65,000 pounds of food. It was a semi. And so when it came in, we called 10 different organizations who were good at feeding people. That's what they specialize in. That's not what we do, but we did our part. Our part was because we were profitable, we were actually able to go buy the food. Very little of the food came in just because of the nature. People don't really come to our offices. It's not like a bank or Walmart or something. And so we actually took the profit and we bought the food. But then we gave it to 10 organizations that were in 3 different states who fed thousands of people. And that's what they were good at because that's their part. And I promise you, their job's a whole lot harder than what ours is. But to see the guys and the ladies that were involved in that, running around and unpacking the food and being there and helping them load it up in their trucks, there was a sense of pride and accomplishment and purpose in what they did because, why? They were a part of a mission. That day was an investment in them. It would have been much easier to write the check to an organization, but that's the easy way out. But providing the opportunity for the people that worked within your organization is life-changing. It's influential. And they went home and they talked about that with their wives and with their kids. Probably fielded questions like, well, why, Dad, did you do that? That's the kind of stuff that causes your employees to line up and be raving fans. Guys, the best marketing is not just about generating sales. What's the story? I want to tell you that I'm going to run out of time. Culture, if you have a coin in your pocket, culture and your brand are really like 2 sides of the same coin. They're interconnected. Your brand is an extension of the reputation and your core values in your community with what you do. Your culture and your investment in your people. Culture is the sum total of the character of your organization, which is why you should choose wisely. When those things align, those are powerful. That's where you go from ordinary to extraordinary. That's where you go from being competitive to having a competitive advantage. This coin is something that every person that comes in our organization, it's a challenge coin that we give them. And it's a reminder on this side, it has our mission statement printed on it. And on the perimeter, it has all our core values. And then on the back side, it has these images. It's a reminder of what we call our Life 360. I have a portion of that, I think, in your journal today, where we do an eval with our folks every 3 months. And it's really a self-assessment check on how you doing in this area. How you doing in the area of your finances? How you doing in the area of your friends? How about your fitness? And we'll go through all 6 of those. But the guys keep this as a reminder because when we talk about success in an organization, what we'll tell them is at the end of your time here, it should be a given that you made good money. But that can't be the only thing you take away. At the end of your time here, we want you to be able to say the definition of success is that you were a better parent, you were a better spouse, and you were just a better citizen because you worked here. Every roof that we sell now, we started doing last year, is we give American flag away and our guys get to install it for free. It doesn't matter the size of the job, we just offer to give it every time. Now, obviously, we're a very patriotic company. Patriotism is important to us. but it's also important to our customers. But you know how that makes our team feel when they're actually able to do that, and you hit one of those people that was a veteran, and it's like, I really appreciate that. You know, they're taught to ask on the phone, you know, well, are you a veteran? Because we want to thank you for your service. But that kind of stuff is intentional. That's intentional about bestowing value and honor where it's earned. But it's also intentional in the fact that I feel good that we as a company, as a family, as an organization feel that way about people that have sacrificed on our behalf. Does that make sense? Guys, the intentionality of building a culture that is healthy will give you a competitive advantage that your competition can't steal. You want to talk about highly engaged employees? Care about what they care about. Maybe consider the perspective of spending a little bit more time as you're onboarding and maybe create a profile for the people that are coming in. You ever ask your people, what's on your bucket list? Well, we really haven't thought about it. So now, what if you had $10,000 and you couldn't spend it responsibly? What would you spend that on? Oh, well, oh yeah, there was a bucket list in it, but they hadn't allowed themselves to dream that way. Well, why is that important? Well, what if during the course of the time they were there, that some of those things that seem so big that are kicked so far down the road to when we retire could actually be accomplished in the next year, 2 years, 3 years. I want to take my family on a full week's vacation because we've never done that. We've been married 10 years. Well, what if you tailored your goal for that particular individual and that was the reward? What do you think would happen with that? I mean, it would set that person on fire. Or what if they were doing a fantastic job and you had an opportunity to speak into that and give towards that? Or that's super important. You know, what if you knew what their favorite food was? Would that be important? Probably, if you were looking for a way to say thank you. I mean, if I hate donuts, don't give me donuts. Speak my love language, come on. And so think about your employees like they were your family. Know everything you can know about them. One of the things that happened, I thought it was great. This gentleman's not with us, but every time somebody new comes on board, we want to know what their spouse's names are. So, and he taught me this. He said, I just started putting them in my phone. So if I'm calling Spencer, I have Spencer's wife in there every time. And so now when I see Spencer, I don't just ask about his wife. I call her by name. That's very intentional. That's the level of engagement that you want to have, that you want your employees to have with your customers. Then you're going to have that kind of engagement and investment in the lives of your employees on a personal level. Does that make sense, guys? Perspective. If you'll change it just a little bit this morning, I promise you, you're going to leave here just a little bit differently. Greg, do you have that last slide, the one on ordinary versus extraordinary? I know we've had some challenges, but can you pull that one up? As he's doing that, guys, ordinary businesses, they compete on price. Extraordinary brands, there's something about an extraordinary brand insulates themselves against price. If you're only competing on price, I promise you it's a race to the bottom. You're going to have to cut something out. What if you just sold on value? What if you built a brand that people were so in love with because you won their hearts every single day because of your reputation of what you did in the community, how you treated your employees, and how you followed up when you screwed things up, and you built a reputation on that? Would people be willing to pay more for that? Would they look at that more as an investment? Because a true investment is one that I think over a longer period of time is going to pay me back. You ever bought something that you bought much cheaper now, but then you had to replace it in half the life if you had just spent a little bit more? We all have. When you build that kind of brand, guys, and we're talking about margin, what happens is you become so different than anybody else, they can't compare your price. Well, why is it that if I spend, well, it's not that way anymore. I don't even know what a cup of coffee at McDonald's costs anymore, but it's not the same as going to Starbucks. Or what if I went and bought a cheeseburger at McDonald's, but then I go buy a gourmet cheeseburger somewhere else in a hotel and they want $15 for that, 3 times the price. What's the difference? They're demanding a different price based on the value, even though you could argue that the product is similar. It's definitely not the same, but it's similar. These healthy cultures and building this brand reputation really allows you to compete more than just on price. You want to stay out of the commodity game in everything that we do. I don't want to be competing on price in what I'm doing. I also don't want my employees to only be united around a paycheck. Everybody can offer a paycheck. What are you offering that's different? What are you offering different to the people that are going to be on your team? Because that's what's going to make the difference. Did you find it? Okay, we're gone. We're done. All right, Devane, wrap it up.
Yeah, you're good. Hey guys, we've got like 5 minutes here. If you have any questions that arose during that session, we're going to give you an opportunity to ask Terry firsthand. Looks like we got one back here. Right behind you, Dylan.
Yes, sir.
Can you hear me? Yeah, now?
There you go.
There we go. So everything you're saying up there so far has hit home with our business at Oasis. I feel, so I'm one of the leaders at Oasis, and we are trying to do exactly what you're talking about up there. And I think some of our struggle, what my struggle is personally, is how many people I've grown that leave, right? And not to get an attitude about the person that you're growing that moves on to a different job, right? Because you've invested all of that time in them, and then they get stolen away over money, right? And you thought you've done a good job with the perspective of what we've got going on. So I feel it's a struggle beneath me as well with my managers, right? I think we have a good core of the 20% does 80% of the work, and we're trying to change that culture in our store, but I think my managers struggle with that as well, right? Of not enough buy-in to keep them going. Does that make sense?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
So, I mean, I absolutely like some of your ideas, and would like to get more out of this session today on what we can do with not our managers that get it and we're living it and we breathe it and we own it, but getting the guy that's washing the motorcycle for our customer to feel just as important as myself, right? And how do we deliver that, I guess, is...
Yeah, that's a long answer.
It is.
I'll give you a couple of bullet points, though. I think one of the big ones is when they're onboarding on the beginning and you're in the selection process. That's probably the most crucial part of all this, I think. That's why I think you've got to invest the time in, like, maybe I'm only going to select 1 out of 100 people. Well, what does that mean? I'm busy, and I'm going to talk to 99 people that I'm never going to hire. But that one person is going to stay a whole lot longer because they're going to be more fully aligned with the mission, the purpose, the vision, probably share our core values. Second thing is, I think being very, very clear once you get to that point. See, for us, when we're looking for that, the character is the first thing. I don't want somebody that's going to stand at the door and overpromise and then underdeliver. So if I can find someone that has character, I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt that they're at least going to keep their word with me. And so our interview process would be like, we're not looking for somebody looking for a job. We're only looking for somebody looking for a career. Now we're going to have 4 interviews before this is over. So this is what this process is going to look like. But when we get to the end, if we thought you were a good fit on the team, we're going to ask you for a 2-year commitment. Now it's going to be a gentleman's agreement. It's not going to be a contract. Is there anything right now that's preventing you from doing that if we get to that point? Because we ask the same commitment of everybody that works for us. What that's doing is it's setting the expectation. I need to think about that. And if you're talking to someone that is a person of character, they're going to think more about just breaking that. Because the reality is, much like a honeymoon, it's all going to be good in the beginning, but you're going to be doing all the investment, the reward from that, and we only promote from within. And so I'm telling them that, though, because I'm also leading with vision. We only promote from within. So we're going to have to be able to develop you, which is why we're looking for career-minded people. But I think you got to be really intentional about that mission and purpose, stuff that we were talking about. I'll give you one of these. We give all of our employees this. Our core values, our mission, our vision, they have it inside their name badge. We'll run contests, quote it. Here's some money. Here's some embarrassment if you don't. I mean, just whatever. We have fun with it. But you've got to get it to go all the way down and through the organization. I'm guessing we're out of time. Okay, I'm out.
Thank you.
All right, guys, welcome back. Well, listen, I hope you enjoyed that content. There's a lot of valuable information in there, a lot of lessons that were learned probably the hard way. Those are the ones that we seem to never forget. But I can promise you, if you'll take some of the principles of that session and begin to apply them to your business, whether you're a solopreneur, whether you're bringing on board your first employee, or whether you have 50 employees, you're dealing with people. The principle is the same, whether it's a vendor, a customer, or an employee, they're all applicable. And so I just encourage you, make the effort to do this. Change the way you're looking at your business, change the way you're looking at your customers, change the way you're looking at yourself, as well as change the way you're looking at your community. And I think if you apply that perspective change, you'll find that some of the things that you've only been looking at, now you'll actually begin to see. And that really begins to shed light on the little things that make a big difference in your business. Remember this, 80% of your competition, or your competition is doing about 80% of the same thing that you're doing. They have a building, they have employees, they probably have a parking lot, they have to clean the building, whatever service that you're in. There's about 80% of that tends to be almost exactly the same. And they may even be selling some of the same product. But the 20% makes 100% of the difference. And I think that 20%, that secret sauce, is made up in your culture. And so if you'll change your perspective on how you're looking at some of the things that you've been doing, like, what if I focused on creating raving fans instead of trying to create more sales? The byproduct of creating more raving fans, you would have more sales. What if you focused on trying to create raving fans amongst your employees? If you did, your customer experience levels would go through the roof, and you would create an army of advertising consultants that work for you for free as a brand ambassador because you turned them into a raving fan. Again, slight perspective change, but if you can make the change, I promise you, it'll make a big difference. We'll see you next time on the Culture-neer podcast.